insulated metal water bottle. If I looked at the search term like women's pink rubber coated insulated water bottle, like that's my exact product. Now, the more specific you get to the product, the more specific the search is, the lower your search volume is going to be. So what we always look to do on product launches is like we try and find the intersection between good search volume and good to us is like maybe even a couple thousand, depending on the budget, that also have really good relevancy to the product. Because what you're trying to do is you want to get in front of your exact shopper. So example would be insulated water bottle is going to be really expensive and not super specific to my product. Like it's kind of specific, but not really specific. I'm trying to say like, okay, where can I start getting super specific to my product, but it's going to have enough search volume that I can get the sales volume that I need. So I would focus more on that versus than I would looking at only search volume. A bit of a technical answer here is we don't quote move them, meaning we're not going to pause the existing keywords. We're simply going to launch them in another match type. Again, make sure to keep the bids lower. Amazon actually, if you read their recommendations, they recommend keeping bids lower on broad and phrase match, even lower than the exact match. When we would launch those is honestly really dependent performance of the account and availability of the budget. So if you launch a keyword in exact phrase and broad, so you have 50 keywords, right? And you launch them in exact phrase and broad, you technically have, 150 keywords that you've launched. And the potential of broad and phrase to spend could be quite high. So again, you just want to make sure it makes sense. It seems super simplistic, but if you are in a phase where you're struggling to control total ACoS and ACoS, to fix those two numbers, it really means that you have to lower down your ad spend with ideally little to no impact of the total sales or the ad sales in the case of ACoS. If you introduce a whole, again, those 50 keywords in exact phrase and broad, and those you probably need to test and optimize the bids, etc., you're introducing a lot of additional ad spend into the account. So you do want to be aware of that and be careful with that. So that's kind of a benchmark that we use. But overall, I would say, I don't know if I would have like a certain time frame or a frame which I would hold back on. It really is dependent on the performance of the account. Another good question, which best bid strategy for phrase and exacts when you move? So again, we don't really move them. We would simply launch them in addition. We like to separate them by campaign as well. I think it gives us a little bit more control over, say, budgets for things. Now, as far as the bidding strategy, we're a super huge fan of using mainly dynamic down only. If it is a keyword that we want to ensure that we get impressions for, so for our launch keywords, for our main keywords, for anything we're trying to be aggressive with, we prefer a fixed bidding strategy. It's still going to be the same. It's still going to be pick highly relevant keywords. One other tip is pick keywords that fit within the budget of the account that you're launching. So for instance, if I have a couple $100 a day budget versus $50 a day budget, those launches are actually going to look a little bit different because I can't afford that many clicks on a $50 a day budget. Or if I had, a couple $100 or $1,000, I have a lot more room for clicks. So actually, you want budgets to play into your launch strategy. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, do not expect profitability on launch. This is a huge one. There's a lot of people that try and pull back and knee-jerk for profitability right out of the gate. That is not going to happen. The reason why it's not going to happen, and I'll tell you the numbers behind the numbers, is that ACoS is just going to be high on your product launches, and that is a function of two things. One, the aggressive cost per click you have to set to be able to get visibility in the beginning, and two, how low your product conversion rate is going to be, especially if you're launching without reviews. Those two things, once you start to be able to bring your cost per clicks down because you gain momentum or you're optimizing your bids, and then two, once your product conversion rate starts to increase because you're getting those reviews, maybe you're optimizing your listing a little bit more because you've learned more about your target market, that is going to help bring down your target ACoS. So those things, again, conversion rates are going to be low, high cost per clicks. That's actually like the nuts and bolts of why your ads are not profitable, and it's almost unreasonable to expect profitability in the beginning. And that's actually why, if you've ever had a product where you're like, no matter what I do, I cannot seem to bring the ACoS down, I'm struggling here, it's a function of that your conversion rate is remaining low and it's not improving, and your cost per clicks are remaining high and you're not able to improve them due to the market or something else. So again, I would still say pick highly relevant keywords. Also make sure that whatever keywords that you have fits within your budget. Launch them. Aggressive, sponsored products, exact match, potentially sponsored brand video, exact match if you have the creative. Double down on that for a couple weeks and then start expanding. Hello, and welcome back to another weekly Ask Junglr episode. This is where I get on for an entire hour and answer nothing but Amazon ad questions. Said it before, I will say it again. It is my favorite day of the week because this is what I love doing. This is what I do with my team. This is what I do with clients. And hopefully this is a space where you can leverage sort of our past 6 years of knowledge on Amazon advertising and help you grow and get to the next level. So if this is your first time joining, welcome. If you are listening in on any of the replays, welcome to you as well. If you don't know, hi, my name is Elizabeth Greene. I'm one of the co-founders. We are an advanced Amazon advertising agency. The name is Junglr, junglr.com. And we have been working with brands across different spectrums. So we have everything from clothing to supplements, baby, and everything in between. This has given us like just a really, really broad perspective. And there's a lot of nuances when it comes specifically to the Amazon ad platform. We're constantly learning and testing new things. And over the last, like I said, over 6 years now, along with the entire knowledge of our team, we've learned a lot of stuff. I feel like it's that, what is the commercial with State Farm? Like we know a lot because we've seen a lot, right? And so hopefully my goal with this segment weekly is to be able to say like, hey, we've learned a lot of things and I would love to help you, kind of like leverage all your knowledge to, again, upscale your own Amazon ad account to unlock that next level of growth for your brand. And of course, you can catch replays of these pretty much on every single channel. We're streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And there the replays will sit for every single one of these weekly. Just going to quickly plug, if you go to our website, you'll also be able to go to resources and Q&A. This is going to give you access. Of course, you can see the live stream here. Or also have a calendar if you want to follow Google Calendar, so you can get alerts there. That can be very helpful. And you can also see we're putting it out in podcast form as well, because sometimes it's a lot easier just to throw it on a podcast when you're on the go, although YouTube works pretty well for that as well. I honestly tend to do both when I'm driving. I'm a YouTube, podcast, or audiobook kind of gal. But you can see this. And we also have some past guests. So last week we had Kevin Fisher from K-pop, which is a tool that we know and love. And so a lot of good perspectives being added to the conversation, which I love. I love being able to leverage my sort of relationships with those in the space to be able to kind of bring knowledge to those of you who might not have access to those people, which again is something that I'm really passionate about. So with that being said, it looks like we have a lot of questions popping in the chat. So I'm going to dig right into it with a question from Joseph. Joseph says, I really enjoyed watching yesterday's webinar and looking forward to today's. Awesome. So glad you enjoyed. The webinar that Joseph is referring to, actually, if you go to our YouTube channel, if you go over to lives, you'll see it. It was a webinar that I did in conjunction with a community I'm a part of, which is called Core. We actually have open enrollments right now. So first off, that webinar in and of itself was highly educational. Definitely recommend going and checking out that replay, which will give you a good idea as to sort of the high level of information that is shared within Core. So a lot of these forums, like the one I'm doing right now, is like me showing up and I am sort of like the sole person teaching here. Core is really about community. So it's not just myself. There's other experts there that we kind of, bounce ideas off of. And it's just been a really, really amazing resource for our team to up-level skills, as well as, just I've learned some amazing things through that group as well. But that being said, Joseph, getting back to your question. he was wondering if I can summarize in short how we can balance when we're working towards lowering total A costs and we don't lose sales at a higher rate. That's a really good question, Joseph, and one that can be a little bit difficult to figure out. And so this is kind of playing off what I shared in the webinar yesterday. I was the third person to present along with the other founders. So I recommend you go check that out if you want a perspective on Joseph's question. It was this whole idea that sometimes chasing lowering a cost can actually hurt your overall profitability, and that a cost does not necessarily mean that your account is more profitable. And so it was all about that. So Joseph, really what it's about is identifying which targets have the biggest impact in your total sales is really what that is. And the easiest way to effectively lower total A costs without hurting sales growth whatsoever is going to be where do I have ad waste in the account? Getting rid of ad waste, meaning things that you are spending on, but is not necessarily generating sales for your product. It's not generating sales for you whatsoever. So a biggest factor of this, excuse me, my nose is itching. Goodness. A biggest factor of this is going to be keywords and search terms that have clicks with no sales. Now, how easy this is going to be for you to lower a cost using this sort of method depends on how much ad waste is in the account. Actually, if you're running a really, really tight ship, lowering total A cost numbers is much harder than if you have, unfortunately, an account with a lot of waste. So for an example, we took on an account. It was a very large account. There was a lot of waste in that account. It went from a 27% our total A cost. I think we got it down to a 15% total A cost within a span of like 4 or 5 days. That's a pretty intense turnaround, right? The reason why is there was a lot of ad spend and there was a lot of waste and there was a lot of things in the account that were not working. So all we did was like, where is there waste? Cut it. That was our primary focus for the first 2 weeks and still ongoing, right? But that for us was a lot easier. And so the answer to your question is also determining, are you looking at how do I bring down total A costs on this specific product? Or are you looking out a little bit broader and saying, how can I lower total A costs for this entire account? If you're looking at it on an entire account level, then my question would be, where do I have the highest ad spend? Which of my products has the highest ad spend and the highest total A costs? So high ad spend, I kind of touched on my presentation yesterday. The bigger piece of the pie that product's ad spend makes up, the more that particular product's performance, in this case, we're looking at things with high total A costs, is going to have to the overall, or the biggest impact it's going to have on the A cost of my account. And so in those cases, that's one way we do it, right? So when we're doing audits, we actually go and we evaluate this and we say, okay, which of these products do you have high spend on? And then where maybe are you overspending or there's a lot of waste? And then that can be very, very helpful to like zoom into, okay, what are the ads now? What is the structure for this product? And then again, where is the waste or the inefficiencies for this particular product? And that can give you another level of focus. So Joseph, I don't know if that was helpful. You said summarize in short. That's kind of the bane of, I like to give a lot of context. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, for sure, let me know. Happy to kind of expand on that even further if you need. Karen has a great question. Do you use bid automation software or do you prefer to set up rules yourself? If so, what software do you use to create these rules? Great question. So yes, we do use software. We use 2 things. We use an internal system that, something I built. I kind of wrote that bid algorithm. And then the other thing that we use is a software called KPOQ, that's spelled KAPOQ. I actually had Kevin on last week and he is basically responsible for writing their bid algorithm. And so we will use them for bid automations, and we're kind of using a hybrid of both at the moment. At some point, I think we'll fully switch over to KPOC. The one thing that you really need to be careful of if you're using bid automation software is, one, do you fully understand what the software is doing? And how can you, so do you know how to like work within the system to get the results that you want? Because there's a lot of really good automation softwares out there, but some of them unfortunately are a bit of a black box, and it's hard to kind of like understand how they're going about stuff. And it also depends on how you prefer to manage things. So we prefer to manage things with a high amount of control, because we are very, very confident that we know what we're doing. And so we need a software where we can like just really granularly tweak the outputs and, you know, get it to just say, okay, in this scenario, this is what we want to happen. In this scenario, this is what we want to happen, and just really get our hands dirty and dig in there. That aligns with what we want to do. So the one very refreshing thing I find about KPOC, even though they're like so they're more of like an enterprise software, but we've been using them for over 2 years now for their analytics, and then we'll continue to use them ongoing because we just find that they work so well. They are very, very transparent about how their software is calculating the bids. And so we know what inputs we can tweak to get the results that we want. And that has worked really, really well for us. Now, if you would like a software, if you prefer, you're like, I want to get my hands dirty a little bit, but I prefer the algorithm to kind of like do the heavy lifting for me, then you're probably going to want something that is a little bit more hands-off and automated. So maybe you just put in like, say, an ACoS target or something, and it optimizes for that. You can use KPOC for that. But another really good tool for that, so I'm plugging Core again, but one of the Core founders, Michael, they have a really good software called Ad Badger. And that one's a little bit more hands-on. It's still a really robust tool. There's a lot of good use cases for that, but that one, another good one that's up and coming is called Ad Labs. That one, there's a little bit more, the tool is intuitive, but it's also kind of like a slice and dice, use it how you want tool. If you lean more heavy on data and analytics, and you really want to start moving into like DSP and other things like that, I don't know what your ad spend is, then IntentWise is a really good solution for that. They're really heavily focused on the analytic aspects and, you know, kind of allowing a lot of leverage there. If you want a tool where you're like, I want to set up every single kind of granular rule I could possibly have, then Scale Insights is going to be a really good solution for that. Some of you like the idea in theory about setting up like granular rules, and then you get into a tool like that and realize like, oh shoot, I have to set up all of these rules. I actually know somebody whose entire business is just helping to set up Scale Insights rules for brands. So it really is dependent on what you want. Again, we would prefer to set up rules ourselves just because we like the granular control, but it really comes down to how you prefer to manage, and then honestly just finding a software that's going to work best for your needs. I'm going to remove the thing on listing, which is known as, I got a listing question. That one I don't know as much. Another quick question. What point should we keep in mind when launching our first campaign? What keyword should we target, and how many campaigns should we make off of one product? Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous question. Oh goodness, I have a video that's coming out. We're editing it right now. I'm honestly slacking and getting feedback to my video editor, which is why we have a little bit of a backlog there. The one thing that I will say that most brands do not take into account, and also the one thing that most people who have like a video on YouTube that, you know, says like, hey, this is the launch strategy, that they don't take into account is two things: your goal and your available resources. What does this mean? How much can you afford to spend on your advertising? That actually should be factored into your launch strategy. Now, we have brands that we work with that are like, hey, I have whatever it takes, right? I want this amount of orders, whatever it's going to take to get me there. Cool. As long as you're comfortable with that and you recognize that probably for those types of aggressive strategies, performance isn't going to be great. Where new sellers run into issues is when somebody says, all right, so I'm not going to give you a number of campaigns. I'm going to give you a framework to think about it, and then I'll give you a video to watch in terms of how you can go about doing really intense keyword research. Okay. So I'm going to give you some help, but I'm not going to give you the advice that's going to hurt you, because I've talked to brands all the time. Well, they'll go be like, oh, I found this YouTube video and they told me to launch these 20 different campaigns. And so I went in and I launched all my campaigns, and then I went in and checked my ads the next day, and I was spending like $2,000 a day, and I'm freaking out because I can't afford to spend $2,000 a day, but this is what they told me I needed to run. And so you end up wasting money. You have no confidence in yourself. You feel like I did something wrong. I blew it. I don't know what I'm doing. And you just like, it's terrible. It's horrible. And the reason why was because it wasn't that there was anything wrong with that ad launch strategy. It wasn't tailored to your goals and your budget. So here's how you need to think about that. You need to curate your keyword list based on what you can afford to do. And then based on what you can afford to do, that's actually going to set up your expectations as to how much, how much sales you can expect out of the gate. And there's nothing wrong with starting small and working your way up from there. Okay. So that's my 2 cents on that as far as how many campaigns. I'm going to try and find that video that I was telling you about. So that one's going to go really in depth on keyword research. Highly recommend you watch that video. We actually have like a 2-step process for that. The end results like more of a 2-step process, but we have like a pre-process. So if you go here and you find this one, private workshop recording keyword research for product launches, watch that. That's going to tell you like way more in-depth keyword research than I can possibly get into on this live. And then what you want to do is you start with exact match sponsored product campaigns. And then you do one campaign, one ad group, only put in. So if you're launching like 3 separate products, you create campaigns for those 3 separate products. I don't care if they share keywords. Now, when I say separate products, I mean separate listings. So if you're launching a product that has like 3 variations, you can put all of those variations in there. I go through like product specific keyword strategy in that one. So again, highly recommend you go and watch that video. And then you want to use a fixed bidding strategy for your launch campaigns. Now, how many campaigns you're going to have is going to be determined by how many keywords you have you found in your keyword research. Again, and those keywords, the amount of keywords you find, what search volume they have is going to be curated based on, again, goals and your resource availability, or basically what kind of ad budget do you have. So honestly, that's why I say like that comes first, because your whole strategy should flow out of that, which is going to set you up for much better success than if you just went and burned a bunch of money in the beginning and then freaked out and had to pause everything. So hopefully that was helpful. Oh, good question, Umar. What would be your strategy for getting sales as a new beauty brand serum, but have to sell only 50 units without spending too much in that sense? So we are up against spend constraints on a high cost per click category. Okay, so here's what I'm going to give you, okay? You have a limited budget, which means you need to pick a subsection of keywords. What I was just talking about on the keyword, like on the product launch strategy and how that should be curated based on goals and budgets, this is going to apply to you as well. All right, so the thing you want to focus on in the beginning is relevancy. Meaning, so you have a beauty brand, it's a serum, right? What kind of serum is it? Okay. What is unique about the serum? Vitamin C serum. Gosh, there's a million of those on the market. Do you have, I'm trying to think about vitamin C serums, like what would be unique for, like, is it for men? Is it specific for men? Does it have some additives in it? Is it like, what is unique about the serum? And see if you can figure out what keyword shoppers are using to find products like yours with unique attributes like yours. Now, again, you might go through and watch that keyword research video as well that I shared. What's going to be possible in terms of like search volume It's going to be like determined by the more specific you to get to the problem. Typically speaking, the lower the search volume you're going to have on that particular keyword. So you're trying to see like, where do I still have a good amount of shoppers searching, but I'm finding my super relevant keywords. That's your sweet spot. Now, here's the tip in beauty, because cost per clicks in your category are insane. Trust me, I know we manage beauty brands as well, but then also a lot of supplements and other ones. You cannot afford to do a lot of aggressive research. So what you need is quick feedback, fast as you can get it. All right. What do I mean by that? I mean, you're going to pick a subsection of keywords. It depends on your budget. And you're going to say, I'm going to test this subsection of keywords. Your budget may say we can only test 3 keywords. Maybe we can only test 5 keywords. Again, you need to set expectations based on the budget availability. If you have a lower ad budget, we can afford to do less keywords. If we're showing up on less keywords, we have less visibility, which means less potential sales, right? It's a fact of life, but that's what you can afford to do. So that's what I would do. And then what you want to do is figure out, we're going to test these very quickly, because the problem is if I test 50 keywords, right? And all those 50 keywords have like $2 a click. Just to get 1 click, I already spent $100. I can't afford to do that. And most times in supplements, your cost per clicks are even upwards of $2. They're crazy. $8, $7. It's bananas. So what you want to do is say, okay, I'm going to test these 3. And I'm going to get as many clicks as I can. I'm going to go aggressive on these. And then as soon as I get enough clicks to validate if that keyword does or does not work, I'm making my adjustments. You can't afford to be like, oh, let's test it for 3 weeks and then we'll go in and evaluate. No, you need to do fast. So you're doing fast, quick pulses of tests. Find things that work. You're trying to find what works. And when I say works, get sales at an ACoS that you can tolerate. And an ACoS that you can tolerate needs to be a lot higher in a supplement category or a beauty product category. If you are getting like 20% ACoS in a supplement category, please message me. Let me know what you're doing, because cost per clicks are so crazy that either you have an insanely high conversion rate or you've been able to find some sort of subcategory that you can get low cost per clicks on. But these types of categories are really, really expensive. So, but that would be my strategy for you. Narrow, short, focus, hyper targeted, move as quick as you can. Make sure you're not moving too quickly, meaning if you only got 2 clicks, that's a 50% conversion rate. You're probably never going to have that. But if you have a conversion rate that you can benchmark off of, then you can say like, okay, on average, I have a 10% conversion rate. That means 10 clicks on average. Maybe I give it a little bit of wiggle room of like 12 and 15 clicks to just see if it's a lower conversion rate keyword. And then as soon as not, I'm like lowering bids, I'm cutting off waste, and I'm going after the next subset of keywords. So hopefully that was helpful. This is a good question. How many times would you test super relevant keywords that didn't perform in a campaign, meaning 0 sales but clicks, knowing that the listing is good but price is premium? Good question. So my question to you would be, do you have any conversion rate data on this product whatsoever? If you don't have any conversion rate data, then you can't bench, because sometimes, unfortunately, for new products, the conversion rates are a lot lower than you actually anticipate, which means it's going to take you more clicks than you think to. How many times I would test it? I mean, we honestly get this question from clients a bit. It's like, oh, what's your cadence? Like, what's your trigger point? Is it like 2 months is my trigger point? Every 2 months I go in and reevaluate my keywords. No, so we don't have a time frame trigger point. I would have a performance trigger point. So, I mean, my question for you is like, do you have anything that's working? If you don't have anything that's working, then you just need to find something that's working to benchmark off of. My guess is it's that the higher price is probably causing a lower conversion rate, which means you're going to need more clicks on average to make a sale. And there might be certain keywords where you need more clicks than you think to make that sale. And so in this case, I would make sure you've allowed for enough clicks to really make that determination. And then I would also might say like, okay, if I have these other keywords at work and maybe I feel like I need to give this a little bit more clicks, but I can't afford to give it more clicks, then I would be fine, with kind of like pausing it. Or one thing that we'll do is just lower the bids, right? And then when we would go back and reevaluate or reattest would be when we have good enough performance on that product that we can afford to do more testing. Classic example of this would be, say the product's chugging along, it's doing just fine, and we're like, oh, our ACoS is great, our total ACoS is great, we're fine with our total sales, we have a little wiggle room in the ad budget, great. Let's go through and evaluate. Where can we get more? Okay, here's another relevant keyword that we tested in the past. Like, hey, let's test it again, right? So it's more of a performance trigger than it is like because what happens if we say, in 2 months, but in 2 months, our total ACoS is really high. We're struggling to bring down our cost per clicks. Like ACoS just isn't that great. The product's not where we want it to be. Anytime you're testing stuff, you're introducing additional ad spend for that product. And you have to make sure that strategy wise, it just makes sense to introduce that new ad spend because you're going to have some benefit to it, right? In this case, it would be like ideally to increase sales, or a benefit might be to rank the products or something along those lines. So that's kind of how we go about doing it. And I also have a video recommendation for you. Sometimes in higher priced products, it's hard to know like, is my conversion rate good? What is it, how is it comparing? Is it good or bad? So there's this video right here, 2 free game-changing tools to analyze competitor conversion rates. I would go through that. I go through brand analytics and search query report and how you would actually tactically use those to see how you stack up against your competitors, which can be very helpful in these cases. Joseph, should I expect that the conversion rate percentage on an individual ASIN, the one that's shown in the business report, should match my PPC conversion rate too? I.e., if my PPC conversion rate is 8%, but my overall ASIN is 20%, does that tell me something? Yes, it does. It does. And so what we often do is we will look at the unit session percentage, which is in the business reports, and we'll look at what the ad conversion rate is. Typically speaking, your ad conversion rate should be equivalent, oftentimes even slightly higher than your overall conversion rate. And the reason why this is because in the ads, you can control where your product is showing up, on what search pages am I targeting, what product pages am I showing up on, am I using sponsor brand display, all of those things, right? Sponsor brands, headline, and video ads, you can control the creatives for it. So you should be being very, very strategic with where you're showing up. And if you're being strategic, you should be targeting the things that have a high conversion rate. And if you're not, then your ad conversion rate will typically be lower than your unit session percentage. So we use this as an evaluation trigger. It's not necessarily a burn the ad structure down, everything's broken, I must fix it. It's a, I wonder if I'm doing something that's not as targeted as I should be. Let me go and evaluate. That's kind of how I would be thinking about it. So what we do is we would go through and we'd say, where are we advertising this product? What targets are we using? Now we actually have a report, like a whole report we put together that kind of leads us through the structure, and we can easily go in and with a couple of filters, identify all of the targets across all ad types that we're advertising on for a product. Took us a while to get that structure in place, but so it's a little bit easier. It might be a little bit harder for you to evaluate. Actually, a really good place to find out this would be the, if you go into the product tab inside of the ad console, they have a drop so you can filter to find the specific ASIN, and then you can have a drop down that shows you which campaigns you have, you're advertising this ASIN in, and then you can kind of take a look at that and maybe go and evaluate the products and the target. So basically, I would say, you're asking, does it tell you something? It tells me I need to investigate. And then oftentimes what you find in these cases is that you've been continuously trying to aggressively target a keyword that just doesn't have a great conversion rate for you, and you've just been struggling to rank the product. And then oftentimes that can lead you to like a shift in strategy, or just kind of eliminating a lot of ad waste. Gil or Gilbert, one of the has a question. Hi there, hello, and welcome. I appreciate you showing up. I have a bidding strategy on my down only, but my cost per click is way above my bid. My cost per click is about 30 to 40% above my bid. So what is going on here? I optimize my bids twice a week. Good question. One question I would have is, do you have any placement percentages on? If you have a placement percentage set on this campaign, that would also increase your bids above your cost per click. And then my other question to you would be, what date ranges are you looking at? So it is possible, say, if you're adjusting your bids twice a week and you went in and you you decrease your bids to say below your cost per click, but then when you go in and evaluate, you're looking at, say, a 30-day date range, your cost per click still could be above your CPC. I mean, your bid could still be below your CPC is what I meant to say. And so what I would do in those cases is I would just look at the last couple days to make sure it's in fact the case. And if that is not the case, then I would check and see if you have any placement percentages set. If you don't have any placement percentages set and you've evaluated the last couple days, it's still happening. And what I would do is I would then open a case with Amazon, and I wouldn't say anything like, oh, this is broken. I would simply say, hey, I have this specific campaign, and then I was noticing on these specific date ranges, my cost per click is below my CPC. I'm selecting this bidding, and I also I don't have any placement percentages set on it. And can you guys tell me what's going on? And they'll investigate, and if there's a glitch, you'll get a refund. That's how I would go about it. Joseph has a question on the ACOS power ratio. Let me read this real quick and see if I know what you're talking about, because I know that's Michael's thing, Joseph. But let's see. The power ACOS ratio metric is super helpful. I agree. It's amazing. Michael's amazing. But left me wondering if when I divide the wasted ad spend ACOS to the overall ACOS, shouldn't I include those with really high ACOS into the wasted spend? Not necessarily. I would just do anything that's not converting, because the thing is, and that's kind of what I went over in my presentation, is high ACOS is determined by either a low conversion rate or a high CPC. So if the only reason why the ACOS is high on those search terms would be that I have a really high CPC but my conversion rate remains competitive, then you're kind of factoring, like, there's so many different moving parts and factors. So I would just start out at the things that have clicks with no sales and just go off of that. And if you wanted to, you could calculate both metrics as well. Just say, this is my cost power ratio with clicks with no sales, and then also calculate a second one. That would be, anything with a cost above X. That could be another one. Currently working for an agency. Congratulations. And in-house for a brand doing PPC management. Would like to start taking my own clients and start building an Amazon boutique ads agency. Congratulations. Any advice or tips you can share? She goes on to say, I'm wanting to create a PPC newsletter. I love reading yours. Thanks so much. Yeah, by the way, we do have a newsletter where I am thinking about potentially putting out additional resources for our newsletter readers that I won't be sharing anywhere else. So definitely recommend you get on that list, which if you are interested, you could go to junglr.com/newsletter is going to be the place to get on that. We also send out like updates and everything in here. And she says, curious what platform you use to send your weekly newsletter, email, and forms page where new users initially subscribe. Yeah, if you want to know what suite of tools we use for everything, it's called Zoho. Now, specifically something called Zoho One, which is like They have other things, like they have a CRM and a newsletter, and you can send forms. You can even have website hosting and all kinds of things on there. Honestly, we're working to get off of Zoho right now for our website hosting because there's a lot of clunkiness with that. We need to step it up a notch and get a WordPress website. I have a love-hate relationship with Zoho. Recently, it's been a little bit more love than hate. So there is that. There's a lot of interconnectedness with the tool that's actually been really beneficial for us as a team. But there's some clunkiness with it, and honestly some stuff that's kind of made me kind of upset with it over the years. So you're welcome to check it out, see if it's going to make sense. In the beginning, it's a little bit more economical because there's like one cost associated with all the tools, which if it's just you in the beginning can be really, really helpful. They also have like a booking program, meaning it's a little bit like a QuickBooks equivalent, which has been helpful for us. It allows you to send client invoices and things like that. Pros and cons to everything. Cons to it is there's a lot of people that use it, but so for like if I wanted to get like a bookkeeper, or we do have a bookkeeper, but like I had to find somebody because I don't want to migrate everything to QuickBooks. It's already in there. There's some clunkiness with that, and so yeah, I mean, as far as platforms, I would just do your research and figure out what's going to make the most sense for you long term. Again, we already had access to it, so it was like really easy for us to just go ahead and use it. But if you want to know what we use, that would be it. All right, Joseph has another question. I have 70 campaigns I noticed were moved into the rule-based bids campaign strategy. They were all moved at the same time, but I have no idea how. Can we even do that by mistake via bulk file? Not that I'm aware of, because you have to like set up rule-based. It could be a glitch. I would reach out, and I would there is a place in the ad console you can ask a question, and I would share with them what happened. I would say, oh, I had XYZ campaign. Like anytime you can list like a specific campaign or a specific date range whenever you're asking for advice there, that's going to be really, really helpful because they know exactly where to go look in their system to see what happened. So I'd say it's these campaigns. It was this exact date. It was moved to this. I'm unaware if I moved it. And they can actually look in their backend system to see like who moved it, where was it, was there an error with that? But if I ever saw anything weird like that, I would definitely recommend checking that out. Cool. So it looks like there was a lot of really good questions. We got about 20 minutes left to go. Joseph has another question. So keep them coming. Keep them coming. We'll be here for another 20 minutes or so. If you got an Amazon ad question, pop it in the chat and let's go. Ooh, I like this one. What is the best sponsored display ad type? Is it similar to advertised products? And should I do that on a new launch? Good question. I am a huge fan of more of the ASIN targeting inside of sponsored display ads. We found that ASIN targeting, the reason why I like that better than to like similar to advertised products is ASIN targeting for us has provided more consistent positive results. Now, similar to advertised products, not a bad idea to test it, but for us, it's been a little bit hit or miss. And the other thing that has been really helpful for us, especially with products that have repeat purchases, is either purchases, if you use retargeting, but especially if you have a repeat purchase product, to use the purchases retargeting. Like there's some brands we were talking to where they're like, oh yeah, there's just like a seasonality thing. I was like, dude, go into sponsored display, do a 365 day, if somebody purchased within 365 days prior, retarget those people. So then you can show up in there, and sponsored display ads will sort of, it appears on Amazon as well as off of Amazon, which that can be very helpful. So if you have a product that people repurchase and you have an idea of sort of the time frames in which people repurchase, then you can leverage, again, those retargeting to be able to do that. Also, sponsored display views remarketing, which means somebody viewed my product but then didn't actually go to a purchase. You can like say days after Prime Day, retarget those types of shoppers. Say, oh, they viewed the product, they didn't then lead to a purchase, but because I already got them on the listing and I had that traffic, you just kind of retarget that traffic to see if you can get some conversion. Kim had a question on Core offering an account audit checklist as a tool, but can't recall where to find it. That is a good question, Kim. I believe what you are discussing is this sort of core launch we did like a long time ago, which was the 4 powerful time-saving Amazon advertising. Oh, I can't even see it because there we go. If you go to our YouTube, you go to live and you scroll all the way down to like the very first live we ever did. That's the one that it's a part of. So I would go through that and see if we say where to find it. And then, cause that's the only other public offering we've had, as far as core tools. So I would look there. And then if you don't see it, let me know. Feel free to reach out to me and I'll make sure that you are able to get that. Which, by the way, for those of you who just joined, Core is a community specifically for Amazon advertisers. So I know there's a lot of really good communities out there for general like Amazon selling, but I know a lot of them don't focus on high, like when I say high level, I'm talking like deep in the weeds, nitty gritty Amazon advertising tactics. It's insane the amounts of conversations that are happening there. We are in open enrollment right now. We will close enrollment, I think, beginning of next week is when we'll close it. So if you want to be part of that community, if that's going to make sense for you, highly recommend you go and check out. It's corecommunity.io is the link. Free has a great question. Do you find that in some cases you may have your ad conversion rate percentage to be lower than your unit session percentage in the case where you have a very high priced product that also sells in stores at a lower price than Amazon? Yes, that is entirely possible. The reason why that would be if you are targeting searches, and maybe like aggressively targeting. So for example, maybe your product is showing on page 3, right? And so somebody's going to be like clicking through, and by the time they get to page 3, they've really just been searching for that exact specific product. And maybe if yours is like a higher price point, they're like, oh, I really want to purchase this. And so they buy it because it's showing up when it's in its organic placement. But say you run an ad for that particular keyword and you're showing up top of page 1, you're going to get a lot of clicks, but maybe those clicks are not going to convert because of the high price point. So that's really what you're seeing is when I show up on the platform naturally, I convert better than wherever I'm specifically targeting with my ads. And the biggest thing to look at here is what am I spending on the most, or what is generating the highest amount of clicks? Because your ad conversion rate is the number of orders divided by the number of clicks. So if you look at in which targets do I have the most amount of clicks concentration, and then what is the conversion rate of that target, and what you'll typically find is that the things that I'm getting the most clicks on, I have a really poor conversion rate on, and that's going to be why you have that dynamic. Now, if you need to adjust from there, meaning like, oh crap, I'm not getting good conversion rates, is really going to be dependent on, are you okay with the target? Are you okay with the ACoS you have on that product? And are you okay with the total ACoS you have on that product? If the answer to those 2 questions is yes, then like it is what it is. But if you're struggling with total ACoS and you're struggling with ACoS, then you probably want to go and evaluate, oh, maybe this is not the target I should go after as aggressively, maybe not have as high bids, not have as much budget on this target. And then where do I have good conversion rate, and can I spend more on those targets and get more bang for my buck? That would be how I would go about that. Gilbert says, is there an easier way to optimize the bids for those with and without placements using bulk file or any software you recommend? Yes, there is. Let me pull pull it up for you. Bulk files outside of software is going to be sort of the best tool. Oh, goodness, I'm going to have to try and find the one that I'm thinking of. But Stephen Knock has a really good tool if you want to get a little bit more nitty gritty with it. Their price point's pretty good with it. And they focus a lot on placements, which is going to be very helpful for you. We have, oh goodness, I can only find it on, just trying to see if I can find the link to it. But this is the tool. It's called Ad Labs. And one of the founders, his name is Stephen Knox. So I would go look him up. This is on LinkedIn. They also have, you're on YouTube. They also have a YouTube channel as well. I'll see if I can pull that one up for you so you can go and like check them out. But that's going to be a really good, if you wanted a tool, like if you're looking for a tool specifically that's going to balance out bids and placement percentages, that's something that they're specifically focusing on. And so I would recommend checking them out if you wanted something like that. Good question. My clients have a product pillow and a pillow cover as well. Is there any way to target the same customers with pillow covers who bought our pillows? Not intentionally and not directly. I'm trying to think if there was a way to sort of like, I'm going to have to look it up now. I'm not sure if you can add both of those products into a sponsored display retargeting campaign. Yeah, that gets funky. Not really inside of Ad Console. Now, if you had availability to, if you're using DSP, absolutely. So DSP would be the answer. But the question really is, like, does the brand have enough that it actually makes sense to leverage DSP? Because that's a whole nother platform. One of the brilliant things in it is retargeting, but it's a much more significant investment than, say, a sponsored display ad. Trevor has a good question. How do you pull data before 2022 for both business reports and advertising reports? My computer went, oh, that's rough, Trevor. I'm so sorry about that. Like for business reports, I'm trying to think. I'm not aware if there is a business level report that's going to go back that long. Not inside of business reports anyway. And so what we do, I'll give you what we do. You can do this manually. It's painful. You can get monthly level ad data. Now, the sucky thing is it's not on a granular level. So if you have a bunch of products or groupings or like you had data, you won't be able to get it on like, say, a per campaign level or a per product level or anything like that. If you want to just like straight download a report, there's something called the campaign report, but that's only for sponsored product ads. That one can go back quite a ways. You can actually, and we have an in-house developer who built a tool to like scrape it because it was kind of painful. But you can actually, I mean, if you have a data entry person, it's painful, but you do it once. What you do is you can go to the chart because, you can look back on lifetime and you can actually look at lifetime. And then if you scroll over each month, you can see the data for that month, completely looking at the entire lifetime of your ad account. So what you can actually do, again, if you don't have a data scraper or, again, you have to do this manually, I would go through and I would like get, you can show 3 data points at the same time. So you have to like get the data points at the same time, hover over, you got to like manually enter in whatever that number is into like a notepad and then like enter all of them. But if you're trying to get like an entire, like if you need the data, I would look at that. That's actually when we do our audits, we scrape you know, like the entire lifetime of the account, so we can kind of like view it over time. Again, it's account level, it's not a granular level, but that's the best that you're possibly going to do. Other things is you can get lifetime on inside the targeting tab. Here, again, it's everything, and the data is going to be for the entire lifetime. You're not going to get it pinpointed. If you're able to use, like, again, this is going to be tedious and painful, so you would only want to do it for things that are really, really important. But what you can do is, like, say, filter, or use like the filter or search option for like a specific keyword or something. And then you should be able to, like, again, you can view it on the graph and sort of hover over. And again, it's going to give you a monthly breakdown. It's not going to be like a granular breakdown, but that also is a way to get sort of that granular level of data. And you can use like the filter option. So like filter for a specific campaign or ad groups or things like that. If you really needed that specific granular level to it. Again, tedious, painful, time consuming. Bonus points you do it once and you should be able to have that report. But that's how I would go about it. Now, gosh darn, I mean, business reports are going to be the crappiest thing. I can't honestly, I mean, I don't know if there's any sort of like order reports or things that are like outside of business reports that are going to give you more than 2 years worth of data. I would go see if you can find something somewhere else, because I don't think you're going to find it in the business reports, but you might be able to find it somewhere where you can maybe like create a pivot table off of it or something, and then sort of like make up that data. Again, the crappy thing is I don't think you're going to be able to get, you could probably get orders and sales. I don't think you're going to be able to get conversion rate data out of that, which is going to be like the most important. So Trevor, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I mean, that must be terrible. So I'm really sorry you're going through that. Hope that answer was kind of helpful. I know it's not going to give you everything that you wanted, but hopefully kind of maybe be able to know that you can figure out lifetime data within Ad Console was a little bit beneficial. Thank you, Elizabeth. Really appreciate it. Of course, my pleasure. My pleasure. Oh, this is a really good one. How do you start on a new product launch? What would be your strategies to start ads on a new product? Good. By the way, I would go and watch the replay of this. I did do sort of like talking about keyword research, and I went in a whole rant. So I'm going to make a shorter rant here, and then I would go and watch the replay to this once it's available. As you know, we're going to end in a couple minutes. So you should be able to watch it shortly. However, all right, you're going to start with sponsored product ads. You're going to start with exact match. You're going to do one campaign, one ad group, structures, and you're only going to put products from a singular listing in that campaign. When I say singular listing, I mean if you have a parent ASIN with a couple child variations, if you have no data for that particular product, in those cases, what you're going to do is you can group all the products in that ad group and then eventually go back and evaluate which ones work and which don't. If there are separate listings and they're going to remain separate listings, I don't care if they share keywords, put them in their own campaigns. Your future self will thank you for that structure. Trust me, those kind of groupings are like an absolute pain to have to unravel. So that's the structure. Use a fixed bidding strategy. So that's like the structure, what to target. And then afterwards, you can branch out to using sponsored products, sponsored display, and auto campaigns. Beginning, when I say beginning, typically the first 2 weeks or so, we're going hyper aggressive with our sponsored products exact match campaigns. Now, what are you focusing on in terms of keywords? You are focusing on relevancy first. Relevancy being, when I type this keyword into Amazon search, does my product absolutely belong on this keyword? And I can't tell you how many times, trust me, I was auditing an account where the brand owner was like, I don't really know if I'm getting this right, if I'm getting this wrong. And I looked at the keywords. I was like, dude, you've got this right 100%. And then there's so many times I audit brands and I'm like, what were you thinking? So I think this bears mentioning. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Things like cup, right? When I search the keyword cup, say I'm selling a tumbler, right? A huge part of ranking on Amazon is sales velocity. This means that if I look at a search page, I can be certain that the products that are ranked high on the search page are the products that are selling very well when shoppers type in this search, which is a great clue for me because you can see here I have so there's a tumbler here, there's another tumbler, but then there's these party ones, and price points are kind of all over the place. And you can see there's these types of cups. There's a lot of simple modern here. There's a lot of cheap plastic cups. It's like all over the place. This means that when a shopper types in cup, I have no idea what specifically they're looking for. Let's type in cups with lids and straw. Let's see how specific this one gets, right? So here we still have a mix, right? We have these reusable cups. We have disposable cups. If we go down a little bit farther, we also have tumblers. Again, this is a very mixed bag. But what if I type in tumbler with lid and straw? That's pretty specific to my product. I also might type in tumbler with lid and straw 40 ounce. We're getting very specific to the product now. So you can see how now this search page is pretty much curated to this exact product. Now, the more that I add to this search, meaning tumbler with lids and straw, handle pink, right? This is really specific here. These are all pink. These are actually products that are probably not doing as good of a job with ads because look, this is a blue product. That's not really specific. This isn't pink. Now you can see in their main image they have a pink option, so that's probably fine there. But I want to get really specific to this search. Now the more specific I get, typically the less search volume I have, but typically, if I have a product that fits exactly this, the higher my conversion rate is going to be. And so that's kind of what you're looking to do when you're targeting in the beginning. Now, how many keywords you're going to pick and what search volume you're going to pick is going to be determined by two things: your goals, what's available on the market, meaning how many relevant keywords do I have, and then what is my budget? Budget is oftentimes not factored into launch strategy, and at 110% should be. Because if I go after a keyword with 100,000 search volume and I have a $20 budget, I'm not going to be able to afford any clicks. My entire budget and then some is going to be taken up by that one keyword. That doesn't make any sense. So in those cases, I probably need to go really lean. I need to go long tail. I need to go super specific. And I probably need to pick less keywords. So the bigger your ad budget, the more okay you are with, a little bit higher ACoS on launch and all of those things, then sort of the more keywords I'm picking, the more aggressive I'm being. And then sort of the lower my ad budget, the more, conservative I need to be, the less keywords I'm picking and the less aggressive keywords I'm picking. So hopefully that was helpful. We're at about a couple minutes now. So first off, I appreciate everybody joining. All of your ad questions has been another really awesome discussion today. I hope you all found it valuable. And so yeah, just a quick recap on this. I highly recommend if you like this, you can catch the replay. Again, we'll be on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, across the web. You also will be able to go and check out junglr.com/live. We are putting out, and again, you can follow along with us if you want to follow the Google Calendar. We're also putting this out as a podcast if you prefer to listen on podcast channels, or you can always go back and check us out on YouTube. If you go to at Junglr, you can see live right here and look at all of our past lives and make sure that you're able to get answers to your Amazon ad questions. Oh, this is really okay. We got two follow-up questions. I got to jump to another meeting, but I will answer these ones real quick. Karen asking, do you use bulk sheets to perform bid optimizations? Yes, we do. So we use a hybrid approach. It's our own internal management system, but it is built off of bulk files. And bulk files were what we used for the longest time. We've since shifted over to software, but you can get really, really far and also build out some very sophisticated systems using bulk files. So I know this, but I want to confirm. Let's say two products are varied together, and one we had the buy box, and for the other we don't. If we push ads for the one with the buy box and the customer buys the other child, ad sales aren't going to show. So you can only advertise a product. Amazon advertising is retail aware. That means if you don't have the buy box for a product, you will not be able to advertise it. I don't believe that's a fact in sponsored brand ads, though, especially if you're directed to a store page. But yeah, so if you're directed to a store page with a sponsored brand ad, those are not retail aware, but ads are retail aware. And so you would only ever be advertising the one that did have the buy box, would be the answer to that question. So as always, hopefully I love the last minute questions. I will hop off here. And again, I really, really appreciate everybody joining. I appreciate everyone showing up, asking your ad questions. I hope I've been able to provide value today. And as always, we will see you next week, same time, same place. Come with your Amazon ad questions and we'll make sure that you get the answers. So thanks, everybody.